Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever and whenever you are. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, your host here at Webinar headquarters in Middleton, Idaho. And today we have Randol Schoenberg with us, live in Los Angeles, California, for his class introducing the Geni World Family Tree. I've long wanted to learn about Geni. I see them at all of the major genealogy conferences throughout the country, yet I've never made the time to really investigate it. And so I had the thought to invite them to present to our webinar audience, and they happily agreed. So I'm very happy to have Randy with us today. And I'm also happy to have all of you with us today. More than 1,500 of you from 27 countries around the world have registered for today's live webinar. Thanks, everyone, for sharing part of your day with us. And here's your reminder to download today's syllabus. It's available right now on the webinar's registration page for those with an annual or monthly webinar membership. And then stick around afterwards for these door prizes. First, I'll have a copy of Thomas McKentie's PDF book, the Genealogy Do-Over Workbook. Then I'll have the webinar digital download of Part 2 of Mark Lowe's webinar series, Quality, Time, and Completion, Developing a Research Plan. And I'll also give away a copy of the Legacy Family Tree software, and finally a free month's webinar membership to our webinar library. And I'll also have a 1-year pro subscription to Geni.com. But first, we're going to hear from you, so everyone get your voting fingers ready. And here's your question. I'm just curious to know if you already have a tree up at Geni.com. So click either yes or not yet, and here in a few seconds I'll share the results with all of you, but with both Randy and with you. And as you're voting, my kids' elementary school is calling me on my cell phone. I wonder what that's about. Well, I'll talk to them real soon. Hopefully it's all right. Okay, I see that most of you have voted here, so I'm going to close the poll, and let me share the results with you. So about 1/5 of our viewing audience here says that they do have a tree up at Geni, and 80% not yet. So very interesting. Thanks for participating in that, everybody. And now it's my pleasure to welcome for the first time to our show Randol Schoenberg. Randy, an attorney, has handled numerous cases involving looted art and the recovery of property stolen by the Nazis, including the successful return of 5 paintings by Gustav Klimt, as featured in the 2015 film Woman in Gold. I watched that and loved that film. He graduated from Princeton University with a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics and a certificate in European Cultural Studies, and received his Juris Doctor degree from the University of Southern California. Randy served as president of Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust from 2005 through 2015, during which time the museum constructed its award-winning new building in Pan Pacific Park. Please put together your virtual hands, and let's give Randy Schoenberg a nice warm webinar welcome. Randy, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm great. Trying to turn on the
and there you
webcam.
Are. Yeah, you look good. This is fun having you here today. Yvonne's writing in, great film. I was really so you had a part to do with what happened for that film. Is that right?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, it was about the case that I handled for my family friend Maria Altman, a case that lasted about 8 years, and
wow.
Making the film took them about 10 years also, but it was a lot of fun, and I got to participate. They would send me drafts of the script, and I would scribble a whole bunch of notes and send it off to them. They would ignore those and then send me another draft and that type of thing. So I didn't have too much to do with it, but I did get to see some of the filming, and I think they did a great job.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh, well, thanks for sharing that with us. Well, Randy, I've got controls over to you. Currently, I'm just seeing the black screen. So let's try and figure out how to. Oh, there you go. Now I'm seeing. I just saw your PowerPoint there, and that looks great.
Sorry.
Oh, very good. Well, I'm real excited about this. Anxious to learn more about Geni and get to learn about it from the best. So thanks again, and the time's all yours, Randy.
Great. Well, thanks so much, and thanks to everybody who is online. This is the first time I've done this, so I'm getting used to the technology, and maybe some of you are too. But let's give it a go and see how things progress. First, a little background for me. Jeff gave me a nice introduction, but let's see if this works here. There we go. You should see a slide of me 40 years ago when I was about 11 or 12 years old. And there I am in front of my big family tree. So I've been doing this a long time. And I also, around that time, around 1979 or 80, got my first computer. And as you heard, I majored in mathematics. So I've always been interested in technology and computer science. Let me turn off my webcam there. So now you can't see me, I think, or at least the top of my bald head. Anyway, I have been doing genealogy really for 40 years. I did it all the way through school. I think most of you are interested in genealogy, so maybe some of you are like this also. You get designated as the family genealogist, so whenever there's a question, it comes to you. And I had that very early on and have therefore continued. Did a lot of work in the local Mormon Family History Center in Los Angeles when I was in my 20s, and became very involved early on in an organization called Jewish Gen, which is a hub for Jewish genealogy since 15 out of 16 of my great-great-grandparents were Jewish. So that's where I do most of my work and have continued from there. I've spoken at a lot of conferences and about, I guess, 9 years ago, I first got involved with Geni.com. I'm not an employee, by the way, of Geni. I'm a volunteer curator, so I go around and help people and work on my tree and their tree and wherever I feel like. But I'm not their employee, and so I wanted to say at the outset that whatever I say about Geni is really my opinion, good and bad, and not the official stance of the company. But I started up in 2009 after attending a genealogy conference in Chicago, where I had been the keynote speaker because of the Klimt case, and that became Woman in Gold. And I was going through the vendor area and saw there was a guy sitting at a desk that said Geni.com, and I picked up his card and didn't really log in right away. It took a number of months, but about 4 months later, I looked at it more closely and decided this was really the program for me. Okay, so I had started up on Geni in 2009 and decided to upload my already pretty large tree to Geni. It was actually over 50,000 profiles that I had collected and put in a single Geni.com file. Most of it was not work done by me, but work I had obtained from other people and sort of stitched together in my large family tree. So I uploaded that to Geni and started from there. And there was a significant learning curve, and Geni has improved a lot since that time. A couple of years later, I became, as I mentioned, a volunteer Geni curator, and since that time, I've been a real advocate for Geni, and I'm really welcome the opportunity to let all of you know, especially those of you who haven't tried it before, what Geni has to offer. So let's go through the slides I prepared, and I'll give you my talking points, and then we can answer questions at the end. I'd be happy to demonstrate as much as we have time for. This is the current World Family Tree statistics, or at least as of yesterday. Geni's innovation is that everybody works together on the same giant tree. So in other words, it started out where people like me, we uploaded our trees to Geni, and then where they overlapped, the overlapping parts, the duplicates, got merged together. And so it became a large connected tree. The large tree now, which they call the World Family Tree on Geni, has over 118 million profiles, and it's growing rapidly, as you can see, at several million per year. So the reason Geni works so well, I think, is that working collaboratively is just better than working alone. I like to think of it this way: who can accomplish more, you working alone or you working with me? Sure, it's, I think, a fun challenge to do an entire jigsaw puzzle by yourself, but it's even more fun to do a larger puzzle with a group of friends. So I think we need to start with the understanding that our family trees are really just part of an enormous puzzle, right? The World Family Tree, everybody, all 500 or 1,000 of you listening right now, we're all connected to each other in this giant family tree of the human race. And I think we don't all have a good sense of how large even our immediate branches of the family tree are. I developed a program called the Geni Forest Density Calculator. You can Google that and find it and use it if you're on Geni. And it measures how many people are within a certain number of steps of a particular profile. So each parent, sibling, spouse, or child is just one step away, and you just sort of continue spidering out. So if the family tree that you're on was filled out completely, right, where everyone who's on the tree has the parents, siblings, spouses, and children, and it just went on forever, how many people would be within, let's say, just 6 steps of you? So we've tested this for historical figures like Thomas Jefferson or James Madison, American presidents, and the number for them is about 13,000 people, just within 6 steps. Of course, the largest figures are for people with a lot of wives, like Brigham Young, who has over 70,000 people within just 6 steps. At 10 steps, Brigham Young has 1,153,592 people, okay, at just 10 steps. So good luck if you're working alone entering a tree that large. There really is no other way to have a remotely complete or comprehensive tree than to collaborate and work with others. And Geni has the best platform for that type of collaboration. I'd like to begin also with this. I don't care is not a valid genealogical principle. I used to think when I was building my family tree when I was younger that I had enough problems with my blood relatives and I don't need to worry about filling out trees of all the in-laws. That was a big mistake. Sometimes the best way to make progress is by what I call going sideways into the trees of people who married into the family. After all, who attended your great-uncle's wedding? Not just his side of the family, but also his wife's. All those people you think of as non-relatives could be holding clues to your own family, photos, documents, stories, and much more. Taking a broad view becomes more important the further back you go. When you get back to your ancestral village with a few hundred people in it, you can pretty much be assured that everyone in town is related to everyone else, by blood, marriage, and everything. These folks often lived in the same place for hundreds of years, meaning that over time, all the families braided together into one single family. If you aren't working together with everyone researching that town, you're making a big mistake. So there's really nowhere else but Geni that you can go to collaborate with others and build trees like this for an entire town. We all want to preserve our work for the future. Most people start genealogy with a pretty narcissistic, it's all about me approach. Take, for example, that initial picture I had of me from 1977 or 78, pointing to myself in the center of a giant tree. My siblings used to make fun of me because I had myself in big letters and they were all in little tiny letters. But that's how we all start. As you mature, however, you should start thinking about how you can contribute your work to something larger than yourself. You want to pass it on to your family and to posterity. The best way to do that is not to work alone. The tree on your hard drive has no chance of ever being found or used by anyone. It's gone as soon as you are. Same with all those files in the garage. Even if you self-publish a book, it's unlikely to ever see the light of day again. The best chance you have of making your work last into the future is by contributing to the World Family Tree. At 118 million connected profiles, Geni's World Family Tree is by far the largest and fastest growing tree in existence. That may actually not be true. There's another collaborative tree now on Family Search, which is comparable and maybe even larger than Geni. It's a little hard to compare. I've written about that, so if someone asks that question, we can talk about the comparison of the two. But whether it's the World Family Tree on Geni or the Family Search collaborative tree, those are really going to be the best ways of preserving your work for the future. There are some smaller competitors like WikiTree, which is about 1/10 the size of Geni. But Geni's annual growth is about the same size as the entire growth of Wikitree. So I think it's really sort of a waste of time to be on Wikitree. In the end, I think the World Family Tree on Geni is a unique and continuingly valuable asset. Whatever happens to Geni or its parent company MyHeritage, that asset is not going to go away. No one is going to want to start over and repeat all the work that went into creating it. So as long as people are interested in genealogy, people are going to want to have access to the Geni family tree. It's going to be around in some form or other for the rest of recorded history. I really believe that. You can put your small tree on a different platform. Companies like Ancestry and MyHeritage allow you to build your own independent trees, but those trees, they're sort of static when you finish with them, when you die or stop working on them, and I think they're not the best way to preserve your work. It's really the Geni tree, the World Family Tree, that is a living tree, improving daily with millions of people working on it, that will continue to be used, I think, long into the future, and not all the little individual trees that are being collected on Ancestry or MyHeritage or Family Searcher or other platforms. So really, I believe that belonging to a collaborative tree is the absolute best way to preserve your work for the future. So why have not all of you gone on to Geni? I think part of it is we're all a little bit lazy, let's face it. It's a lot of work, right? You've committed a lot of time probably to working on your family tree. You have it on your hard drive. You have lots of papers. Maybe you even have it on written form. And the idea of doing that work again and entering it all into Geni is daunting. It used to be easier. As I mentioned in 2009 when I joined, all I had to do was upload a Geni.com file. For those of you who don't know, Geni.com is sort of a standard computerized format for family trees. And it was very easy. With a click of a button, I could upload it. Geni stopped allowing uploads of Geni.com files because they caused too much duplication. Remember, the goal of Geni is to have one single worldwide family tree, not a whole bunch of different duplicate copies. And so as people were uploading their Geni.com files, obviously it created a lot of duplication. All those duplicates had to be merged together. That created a big mess, and so they stopped Geni.com upload. What that means is when you start on Geni, you have to a little bit start over from scratch, but it takes not quite as long a time as you think, especially if you have your tree on another platform, like in some other Geni.com format, or on one other company like Ancestry or MyHeritage, RootsWeb, etc. There is an application that was developed by another Geni curator named Jeff Genties, and it's called Smart Copy, and it works by duplicating sort of an entire family. So you can sort of go family to family to family and add in whatever is missing on Geni, and it goes very quickly. The other thing is you really can get a lot of help on Geni. So once you join, if you have a lot of work that needs to be moved over, you can ask for help among the curators. They love to help people do that. You can also invite your family and friends and get them to help much easier than you could if you were building a private tree on another platform. So it really is worth your effort, I think, to go and take the plunge and start working on a collaborative tree. I think you'll be very happy. I know I was when I started. And think of it like the old cassette tapes or 8-track recordings, right? They don't work on the new devices. Everything has to be upgraded, and at some point you just need to sort of jump in and take the plunge. So do it. You won't regret it. Getting help is really easier on Geni than anywhere else. As I mentioned, there are people like me, volunteer curators from all over the world, who help out on Geni. I think we have almost 250 curators right now. My friend Adam Brown, also a curator, refers to us as park rangers. We go around and help people out, help people settle their disputes, help lock down problem areas. The curators are elevated from the ranks of regular Geni users. Most have years of experience in genealogy and have contributed at least 5,000 profiles to the family tree. Some have accomplished, I think, superhuman feats. There are people who have done 500,000 merges or 200,000 profiles added in just 4 years, which seems sort of incredible. Curators are allowed to see private profiles to help users. We all sign a non-disclosure agreement to allow us to do that, and we can mark well-sourced profiles as what they call master profiles and lock fields to prevent changes. You can also find or offer help in public discussions on Geni. Geni has a comprehensive set of wiki pages that provide a wealth of helpful information. There's also a help button at the bottom of the homepage and a knowledge base where you can search through previously asked questions and take advantage of other self-help tools such as help topics, video tutorials, and community help forums. Paying members, pro users, can also submit help tickets and get answers from Geni's customer service department. So there's that added feature if you pay for the service. And as I'll mention later, Geni is mostly free, so most people use Geni for free and don't pay for it. But if you do pay, you get that extra help feature. Okay, as I mentioned, your relatives are going to be more likely to help and work on the tree with you on Geni. And I think this is one of the big differences between Geni and the rest of the platforms. Sure, on Ancestry or MyHeritage, you can invite your relatives to join your tree and collaborate. But as I'm sure many of you have learned, mostly your relatives won't participate. And here's why. It's your tree. You only share a portion of your genealogy with your cousin, and she's not likely to add her other branches to your tree, right? If you invite your second cousin or third cousin, they only share a tiny portion of your tree with you. And since it's named it would be the Randy Schoenberg tree if I had a tree on Ancestry, none of my second or third cousins are going to want to add in the rest of their family. Geni doesn't work like that. Geni's like a giant jigsaw puzzle where everyone works together on the same puzzle. So there's no ownership. You invite your cousins and they invite their cousins, etc., all on the same tree, on the same puzzle. The tree grows and grows in all directions. Everything belongs to everyone, and you work and add profiles wherever you can. They do, of course, have privacy restrictions, mostly on the living portions of the tree. But for the most part, we can all work together on Geni, and that's what happens. There are almost 4 million users connected to the World Family Tree. So when you add and invite people to the tree, they're going to be able to do as much as they will ever do. And they can do it for free because, as I mentioned, Geni doesn't require you to pay to work on the family tree. Geni is really made for tree building. I use all the other major online genealogy platforms, Ancestry, MyHeritage, Family Search. I use them almost every day, and I'm pretty familiar with how they operate. For the most part, they compete with each other as data aggregators, meaning they all scramble to add and offer more and more data sets like the U.S. Census every 10 years. For the for-profit companies, that's where the money is, that and now DNA. Aggregate the data and offer it to customers for a price. That's the business model. Geni, for better or worse, never played that game, which is, I think, part of the reason why it was eventually gobbled up by MyHeritage. The other platforms offer their tree building as a gateway to getting customers to pay for access to data. MyHeritage now uses Geni that way, now that they bought it, which is also a boon for Geni users who want to pay for access to MyHeritage because the two companies are linked. But Geni has always been about tree building, and it has the best tree building platform because that's all it really ever wanted to be. I spoke a couple summers ago with Shipley Munson, who's the Chief Marketing Officer for Family Search, and he told me that they had commissioned a study of all the tree building platforms and determined that Geni's was the best and most user-friendly. And it is. None of us who use all the platforms would be on Geni if it weren't the best. Of course, all the online programs are superior, I think, to the standalone programs in most respects. Even Ancestry, I think, has admitted that by discontinuing its Family Tree Maker program. There are many desktop programs that offer this or that feature that you might like, chart printing or that type of thing, but none of them has nearly the number of great features that Geni has. And I'm going to discuss some of these below. So one of the great features of Geni, really unique, I think, to Geni is their projects. There are tens of thousands of them. And it's really a great way to collect and organize data and collaborate with other genealogists. basically anybody can create a project page, which you can then edit using very rudimentary tools. You could then invite collaborators to join, or they can go to the actions button and join and request to join a project. And any member of the project can then edit the project page, start discussions, add photos or documents, and attach profiles to the project. There are a wide variety of projects on Geni, and it's hard to give really a good overview of them. You just have to go to that project section of your homepage, and you'll find a way to search for them. But I'll give you an idea. There are umbrella projects that provide some structure to the other projects. I set up one, for example, called the Jewish Genealogy portal, which gives you access then. It gives you basically a directory to all of the Jewish-related projects on Geni. But as a few examples, you could look at projects. There's one for the passengers on the Mayflower. Finnish priests is one of the largest Geni projects. New Zealand pioneer families. I set up a project on the Holocaust with sub-projects for each of the concentration camps, for example. And then, of course, there's a Titanic project that lists all of the passengers on the Titanic, that type of thing. Really, projects are useful in so many different ways. If you're not using projects and working on them to collaborate, you're really not going to get the most out of genealogy. So here's an introduction as I can give you for Geni Projects. You can do all of these things to help organize the project and attach your profiles to the project, including tagging the project to other projects. So creating a project and adding profiles is very, very, very easy. You don't have to pay for it. It takes a few steps. And don't worry about making mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's easy to change them. And they work a little bit like Wikipedia pages, but I think a little easier to learn how to do it. And if you have any questions, just ask a curator or join a project and see how that project works. You can click Edit to look at the project page and see how it's set up. Here's the new project template. You just add in the name of the project. You can start adding profiles or do that later. You can start adding collaborators or do that later. You can type in a description and then you press the button to create project and you're done. The project is created. Here's one for Jewish families of Krakow to give you an idea of what the project looks like. Has over 30,000 profiles added to it. So the goal of that particular project is to add every Jewish person who lived in Krakow to that project. So it ties everybody together, and when people find a person, they then go to the project and they can learn about the resources that are available for research in Krakow or find other families. Here's an idea further down the project page of what it looks like. I have over here, I think my cursor here is showing there's an actions menu, and you can click here to join a project. Add profiles, add collaborators, etc. So you have all sorts of different options. You can add public profiles to any project, right? So living profiles cannot be added to a project unless they're master profiles. It has to be public. And so here, if you're on a public profile, this is my grandfather, you go to Actions, and here near the bottom it says Add to Project, and you can add to the project that way. It looks like this. Then you get a screen, you type in the project name. If you're a member of the project, then you can add to that project. Here again is the Jewish Genealogy portal. This is an umbrella project that I set up, and then some other projects that I've been working on, for example. So you can see these are endlessly important, I think, for work in, if you're working on a small town where you can literally list everybody in the town and have links to their family trees, so that when you're working on the genealogies in that town, it's easy to navigate and find and go from one family to another. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the Geni Relationship Finder, which is one of the sort of killer applications, I think, of the Geni program. Because everybody's working on the same family tree, it's at least theoretically possible to find a path between any two nodes on the tree, any two people in the tree. Remember, it's 118 million profiles right now. So it's actually not a trivial problem, though, for computer programming, and so there is a limit because you don't want to have to search all 118 million profiles every time you want to find a path. So it won't necessarily find a path from you to anybody in the World Family Tree, but if you're close enough, it can find a path. And here you'll see an example. It shows my path to Harry Potter, the actor Daniel Radcliffe. And as you can see, it goes through several families. So it's this long, convoluted path, but it's sort of fun to see how people are related to each other, family to family to family, and this is also a good way of identifying problems and mistakes in the tree because you get to see other sections you might not be looking at all the time. So it's something I think you should try to do. If you're connected to the World Family Tree, find a famous person that if you're an old American family, click on one of the presidents and click how am I related, and you'll see if you're related. I did that for one of my cousins, and they were related to every U.S. president and could find a path that way. So it's a lot of fun. Give it a try. So finding and correcting mistakes it's one of the paradoxical things about Geni, is that I think you'll hear people who don't really know Geni that well say, oh, it has so many errors in it, right? There's so many mistakes on Geni. That's why I'm not on Geni. That's what you'll hear some critics say. And it's sort of funny to me because the reason they say that is it's so much easier to find and correct the mistakes on Geni. All those trees that they have that are sort of private or locked away that no one's really looking at, no one ever finds their mistakes. But on Geni, everybody's working together to find errors, and so you find them much easier, and you also can correct them. Think about it a different way. If there are over 100 million profiles on the tree, even if we had an error rate of 1%, that would still make 1 million mistakes for you to find in the World Family Tree. So just the fact that you found one or two is really no big deal. The great part is that you actually get to find the mistakes and fix them on Geni, which you can't really do with other people's trees on Ancestry or MyHeritage. And so what happens is that people are catching and fixing mistakes all the time. By now, I'm quite confident that the Geni tree is the most accurate large tree in existence. For anything other than a very small tree, it will be the more accurate version, the more complete version, the one with the most sources, etc. So really, if you think Geni is full of mistakes, you're really not using Geni. You need to use it to correct mistakes, and you'll find that it's actually much more accurate. There are areas in collaborative trees where you'll have differing sources, right? Conflicts among sources, or people will rely on old published sources that have been corrected with newer research, and the curators have a way to lock those profiles down, and you add notes on the profiles so that you can alert people to new evidence, and if something's been resolved. There are also ways of setting up the tree that you can have different options and different theories that you can work on. But in general, the collaborative model is the best way to catch and fix mistakes. Think about having 4 million people scouring the tree all the time. You need all those eyes, all those other eyes to catch your own mistakes, and you get to catch other people's mistakes, which is also fun, and correct them. Okay, you can use Geni for free, as I mentioned. Really, I think it's over 99% of the people use Geni for free. If you're the type of person that needs the added features, which include searches and the tree matches, and various other things, you can pay for that. I do, because I love the program, but you don't have to. And I think even Geni's CEO, our general manager, Mike Stangl, encourages people to start out for free and really only pay for the service if you're the type of person that keeps hitting that paywall, because you're the type of person that keeps wanting these added features. But you can use it for free to add unlimited number of profiles, to merge duplicates, to view relationship paths, upload up to 1 gigabyte worth of photos or videos and documents. So really, there's just a lot of things you can do for free. As I mentioned, you can't really effectively use Geni search unless you're a pro user, but there is a way to get around that. You can go onto Google and just add +site:, Geni.com to your Google search, and that will limit your results to just Geni results. So if you have an interesting last name, you can type that last name and to find all the Geni profiles and get to them by just adding plus site Geni.com to your Google search. So Geni really, they don't mind people using it for free. They want people to use it as much as possible. The free users are a benefit for also the paying users. So they're really very open to that. Geni is mostly public. I keep saying this to people. It's funny. We have, I think, a real problem of paranoia in our world, where people assume that everybody is trying to find them and track them down, and that they need to hide. In reality, you want your tree to be as much to be found. You want it to be as public as possible. The best thing that can ever happen to a genealogist is having an unknown cousin make contact and add a branch to the tree. That won't happen unless you put your tree out there for people to find it. Do not worry if your tree isn't perfect. Your tree will never be perfect. I've seen too many people hold on to their trees until they die, never allowing anyone to see anything. Do not be that person. Don't wait. The sooner you get things out in the open, the sooner people will find you. And thanks to Geni's really superior search engine optimization, there's no better way to make your tree public than putting it on Geni. It's really one of the reasons that I first joined in 2009. Ancestry and most of the other major platforms don't allow Google to index all of their public profiles. So if you build your tree there, chances are only other users of the platform will find it. Really, Geni is the only one that makes it possible for the rest of the world to find you using Google, which is, after all, the most popular search engine in the world with 1 billion users. I've experimented by putting large family trees on Ancestry, and I get almost no messages. On Geni, people contact me almost every day. You won't believe it until you do it, but making your tree public on Geni is absolutely the best way for you to find people and for people to find you. I think it's important as genealogists that we act as part of a larger community. Before I started on Geni, I basically worked by myself on my genealogy and sometimes participate in discussions on various mailing lists. But I really had no idea how much or how little other genealogists actually did. Geni really opened my eyes to this. Now I could see the work of other genealogists from all over the world, and they could see mine. I could learn from how they did things. I could see who was speaking from experience and who was just talking. Everything became much more transparent. Geni's news feed is one of its great features. The work of everyone you follow or collaborate with comes into your news feed, so you can see where they're working and help out if you see something. While I sleep, my friends in Europe and Israel are busy working on the tree, and I wake up and I see what they've done and continue the work building the tree. Until you do this yourself, you simply have no idea what it's like and how energizing and inspiring it is. You can even get a lot of the news feed in emails. Some people don't like to get all these notifications, but you can, of course, adjust your settings if you don't like them. But I think the news feed and notifications are some of the best features of Geni. It really activates you in your genealogy every day. Use discussions to solve problems. Geni has all sorts of ways to start discussions. You can start a discussion on a specific profile or project, or just start up a discussion on a new topic. You can comment on a photo or document. You can send private messages or write in someone's guest book. There are many, many ways to contact other people and ask for help. Geni initially, remember, it was founded in 2007. They tried to add in as many sort of social aspects as possible. This is also, the time when Facebook was starting up. So they have a lot of that, and I think it works very well for genealogy. Working on Geni is not at all a solitary pursuit. Everyone is working toward the same goal, which is a complete and accurate world family tree. You get answers, problems get solved. It's really, there's just nothing like it on any of the other platforms. I think it's important to mention also that Geni is a global phenomenon. I concentrate, of course, on Jewish genealogy, but that's just a tiny, tiny part of the larger puzzle. Geni has spread virally through lots of different communities throughout the world. As you might expect, the American tree is very well populated, But that's not the only place where Geni is popular. For some reason, Geni is one of the most popular websites in Estonia. They come up as, I think, the top 10 website in the country. They have Geni users, of course, are all 7 continents in 235 countries and territories throughout the world. I have family in 30 or 40 different countries, and so that's great. I can get help from all the people in those areas. Geni also allows for translations, crowdsourced translations into other languages. So it works in 83 different languages. You can change the language pretty easily at the bottom, so people can use Geni in their own native language. And that's really useful if you have family in other parts of the world. Also, Geni has a really unique feature, I think, that other companies don't have, where you can have multilingual profiles. So you can change the language on a particular profile and give the name in a different language. So if you have someone who has a name in Chinese and English, that same profile can have the name in different languages. It's really an excellent feature. So I think you can hear it in my voice, I have a lot of fun with genealogy. Most people work on their own small trees, but on Geni, I get to work anywhere. Genealogy is not just a search now for my own past, but a way to record history for the rest of the world. Some people wake up in the morning and do a crossword puzzle. I do genealogy. It's good. It's productive. I feel like I'm contributing to something different. My friends and collaborators on Geni are working through a lot of different areas in Bohemian Moravia, building entire trees for communities that were pretty much completely destroyed during the Holocaust. And so it just feels like a good deed every day when I'm working through these families, even if they're not directly related to me. They're all cousins of cousins of cousins, and I get to sort of help in recording their lives and remembering them when, in many cases, there's no one else left to do that. I love learning about areas different from the ones I'm already familiar with, and being part of a world family tree means you get to see what everybody else is doing. So all of a sudden you'll find yourself looking at family trees from parts of the world you never thought you would look at. I focus, of course, mainly on 18th and 19th century records, but sometimes I like to see what people are doing when they work on the 14th century and the 13th century. It's fun sometimes to plug in historical figure like Charlemagne and see if you can find a relationship path. I think it's a neat way of learning history by using genealogy. Geni has a very open architecture and is very welcoming to innovation, so it allows programmers to develop apps that use the Geni database. As I mentioned, one of the curators is really good at this, Jeff Gentis. He's created a number of good applications which you can find at, it's called History Link, all one word, and you can get descendant reports and charts, how to visualize your family tree and things like that. Sort of neat. And anyway, Geni is very open to that, and so there are a number of different applications that you can use that aren't proprietary to Geni, but use Geni as the database. I can't emphasize this point enough. You need to make your tree accessible to the people who want to see it. There's probably only a small number of people who are really interested in your particular branch of the family tree, but why not at least make your work available to them? By inviting your family members to the tree on Geni, you instantly give them free remote access to all of your work. You can upload everything you found, photos, documents, records, and videos, and write family stories on the profile pages so that everyone who wants can see them. And really, isn't that what it's all about for all of us? Your kids, your grandkids, nieces, nephews, and cousins, they might not want to ask you directly, but they live, especially the young ones, they live online. And if you make it available to them on the internet, they will check it out. And trust me, if you don't put it on the internet, they will never look at it. I've got kids, I'm sure most of you do too, and you know that's true. I've had this happen to me, and probably some of you have too, but sometimes people will look at a family tree and look for a family name to give to a new baby, right? And when you hear that, you know you've done the right thing, putting it all out there and making it available to them. So anyway, yet another plug for making your tree online and available. So here's a little bit of a scold, but please stop wasting everybody's time by working on a separate family tree. The goal, your goal and my goal and everybody's goal is the same. We're trying to fill out the family tree of the world. The goals overlap. There's no reason for you to be repeating work that has already been done on Geni. And similarly, there is no reason that people on Geni should have to repeat your work. All that time you spend sprucing your small private tree is, in my view, a waste, because it all has to be repeated again on Geni. All the work you do correcting mistakes and documenting your sources will have to be repeated. The more efficient thing would be to do it all together on a platform like Geni. Now, Geni is really the definition of the scientific method. The best way to make progress in any empirical field like genealogy is to use the scientific method. What that means is when you record and observe genealogical fact, like someone's date of birth or death or marriage, you're making a hypothesis, right? You're saying X is the husband of Y, or A is the son of X and Y. The next step is to test that hypothesis by placing it in the tree and seeing if all the resulting relationships still make sense. Geni is the perfect place to test your hypothesis because other people can then view your work. Think of it like submitting an academic paper for peer review. There's no better way to see if everything fits or if you have overlooked something or made a mistake than to submit your genealogical work to review by other genealogists. That's what is happening thousands of times a day on Geni as people add information to their tree and their collaborators review them and find mistakes or correct things or add missing information. Working by yourself, you will never, never, never be able to get the type of feedback and review necessary to make your work accurate. If you aren't submitting your work for review on Geni, you really aren't participating in the advancement of genealogical knowledge the way that Geni users are. This, again, is why I think the tree on Geni is in almost every instance more accurate, more documented, more verified than what you can do on your own. Help yourself, I think, by helping other people. Every day I get about a dozen messages from users asking for help on Geni. As a volunteer curator, it's my job to assist them, and I love doing it. I get to help and teach people how to use Geni, and in return, I get to learn more about genealogy. There's no replacement for experience, and Geni has given me much more experience as a genealogist than I ever could have had on my own, or even working as a professional on paid genealogy projects. I have no doubt that Geni's curators are among the most experienced genealogists in the world, and I'm at the moment very proud to be one of them. So lastly, take another look. Many people, I think, have looked at Geni before. They may have signed in once, maybe 5 or more years ago. They didn't find what they're looking for, and they didn't add their tree and never came back. A lot has changed on Geni in the past few years. There have been many improvements. You can look at many examples. The multilingual parts of the tree or handling adoptions, things like that have been greatly improved. But the biggest, I think, and most important development has been the size of the tree and the level of accuracy. You really need to come back and take a closer look. If you haven't built out some of your tree on Geni and connected to the World Family Tree, you really don't know what Geni has to offer. You can't just sort of sign in, not add your tree, and look around. It's not that type of place. Over and over again, I've had the experience of helping build out someone's tree on Geni and making a discovery for them. This has been true even for the most experienced genealogists with very large trees on other platforms. I even did it for the founder and CEO of MyHeritage. You really won't know until you try. So again, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and give Geni a look. I think that's the end of my presentation. Thanks so much. The nosebleed has stopped a little. I can turn on the video again, maybe, and see how I look. There I am.
Hey,
okay,
there
so
you
that
are.
Worked.
Well, Randy,
worked.
thank you. I want to tell you what Murray just wrote in. Murray says this has been the best, most interesting webinar on genealogy that I have seen so far. And then in all caps he writes, thanks.
Well, that makes me feel good. There's at least one person who happy.
Yes.
I guess there are 578 of you, so we'll see if the other 577 agree or not. But thank you so much.
Well, to me, Randy, it's been It's been very eye-opening. I've been one. I've known about. Well, I've heard of Geni. I haven't, honestly. I haven't ever gone up and started to use it. Yet after what I've learned here, I can see how this would very much be something to add into my methodology. I do have a couple of questions that were asked a whole bunch of times, and I want to ask you those questions before I go over into the door prizes and then further questions. And I must have just looked away or something when you said this, but you talked about a Google search around or a Google search workaround for searching Geni, and that's a question everyone's wondering. Can you summarize that or remind us what that was?
Let me try this option of going to the Google browser.
Okay.
And let's see if I can do that.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do that. Okay. And whoops, there it is, Google Chrome. Okay. So here I am.
Okay, looking good.
And I'm going to do a new tab here, and here's Google right there, and I'll do Schoenberg. Plus site Geni.com, like that. Okay, and I get only Geni profiles.
Okay,
and so I can see all these. These are all the public Geni profiles with the name Schoenberg, and of course there are a lot of them. When you find one that you want, then you can say, okay, here's my great-grandmother. I'm going to click on that, and you will get to the Geni profile. Waiting for the internet to load up. There she is. Okay. Didn't talk about DNA, but that's of course one of the new features that all of the genealogy programs have, and Geni has that too. But anyway, so this is my great grandmother. So I could get to that profile, that public profile, through Google. So even if you don't pay for the search feature, which is up here, do you see that search feature?
Okay.
Right. So when you're a regular user and you use that search feature, it'll give you a list of people, but if you click on that, click on one of them, it'll ask you to pay to get to it, which is very frustrating for people. So what we tell people is use the workaround. Eventually, we think you're going to love Geni. I mean, the company thinks you're going to love Geni enough that you're going to want to pay for it anyway, and so they don't mind us telling people about the workaround. But that's the way to do it. So again, like I could do the same for Rasmussen.
Oh wow!
Right?
And 62,000 results.
Okay, so you get all these 62,000 Rasmussens.
So can you do Rasmussen with a given name? So like Ivan Rasmussen
Sure. I can do Ivan Rasmussen like that. See, and there are probably a lot of them. Okay, so and if you wanted to, then you could go to click on this and get to it, and that way, as a free user, as a non-paying user, you can get to some of the profiles that you want to get to. And I would encourage people, try it out by saying Randy Schoenberg, plus site Geni.com, and there I show up there, Randy Schoenberg Geni, right? So if everybody out there clicks on that, you'll get to my profile, and hopefully it'll load up in a second.
So Randy, while that's loading, this was one of the other questions, was the privacy. So could you talk to us about the living people? So you're on here. You were showing us, I think.
Here's my profile. I'm a user. I'm a pro user. I'm a curator. That's what that C is. For people who visit my profile, and I'll answer the privacy question in a second. You can go on to actions here, and you can. It looks different for me because it's me, but you'll see an option to request to collaborate. There will also be a button to follow me, and so you could follow me and you can request to collaborate. Send me a collaboration request. That's a great way of getting access to the work I do. As a curator, I already have access to the work that you do, but that way, if I help you on your tree, you can have access to everything. So their privacy is a big question. Honestly, my view is that it's overdone, but I know a lot of people are very concerned about it, and it's important to Geni also. So at the bottom here, there's that button that teaches you about privacy on Geni. There are private profiles and public profiles, and you can read all about this, and it'll show who's in each group. In general, living people are private, dead people are public. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work. If you are a Geni user, you're normally private, but you can make yourself public, right? You're a user. You can decide to make yourself public. The other exception to that is what we call master profiles. I mentioned that. So like Donald Trump is alive, but people want to find him on Geni, they can do that because the curators have made him into what's called a master profile that's public. So for public figures, we have a way of making them public. But in general, living people are private. So if you add in your kids, the only people who are going to see them are people in your family group, Geni curators and Geni employees. So your family group is defined as fourth cousin or less. So anyone within a fourth cousin relationship will be able to see the living people, but beyond that, the living people will show up just with the last name and no first name. Okay. That type of thing. So I as someone who liked to go sideways and around, I like to have I like to be able to see the living people also. As a curator, I can do that. As a regular user, if you want access to living profiles, you can request that the manager of the profile adds you to his family group, and then you get access to the profiles that they added. But other than that, they'll be private. Okay. So, well, thank you very much. Anyway, it has to be a little bit public for people to collaborate with you. I think it's one of the issues that Family Search is having, that on Family Search you can't see any of the living profiles at all, so you can't really make connections that way. On Geni you can. And Randy, that was another one of the questions that was asked maybe 30 times here. Is different. How would you compare this with Family Search? So Family Search started its collaborative tree more recently. Their statistics that they publish when they announce them at Roots Tech are that they are much larger now, that their collaborative tree, the large connected tree, is over 300 million profiles. But again, it's not necessarily an apples and oranges comparison, because there's lots of duplication in the living parts of the tree because no one can merge or see anybody else's living profiles. So so the bottom part of the Family Search tree contains a lot of duplication. So it's not quite the same thing. But I think probably by now they're comparable. I know that in some areas they're probably more complete than Geni, and in other areas Geni is more complete. They don't have curators. They don't have projects there. So I think there's still some technological issues that they're having that Geni has solved. On the other hand, they do have free access to a lot of records, whereas on Geni you have to pay for access to records on MyHeritage. So that's a big advantage at Family Search. I'm a big fan of collaborative trees. If you told me you aren't on Geni but you're on Family Search, I'd let you off the hook, right? I wouldn't be upset. But for a lot of people, Family Search is just not the right place. Especially in the Jewish community, there's a huge controversy surrounding posthumous baptisms and things like that. So a lot of Jews refuse to work on Family Search. So for me, Geni is really the only option. A lot of people, just don't like to be part of the Family Search is part of the Mormon Church, so a lot of people don't like to work on it that way. So for those people, there's Geni. But again, I think the collaborative model, like they have on Family Search and Geni, is the way to go. I wouldn't necessarily recommend Wikitree. I think it's just too small, and we'll never be able to catch up. So anyway, that's my take. Back to privacy. There's also a personal setting. So there's this information page, and then for me personally, I can see my photo private or public, right? All of these type of things. Also DNA privacy and things like that. So you have all these different privacy options. Okay, next question. So you've mentioned DNA a couple of times, and that was one that was asked another couple of hundred times here in my list. What is a relationship between Geni and DNA? What can be done with it? Right, Geni. I think it was a couple of years ago already, has started up allowing you to upload your DNA results from the various companies on every profile. There's a DNA tab. It works right now best with family tree DNA. And so you get matches and things like that. they're close, I believe, to having it work with the parent company MyHeritage, which has become a big player in DNA. But you can also upload your DNA from 23andMe or from Ancestry or other sources, and those will be working. So this gives you an idea. There's a big long page that talks about the privacy, and there's this DNA FAQ that you can find on your. Again, if you go to your own profile and you click DNA, and then you click on this only ask questions, it'll answer all the questions you might have about DNA.
Okay.
And here you can see you can upload your results, and I get not everybody online I'm sure is Jewish, but Jews all look the same in the DNA, so I get thousands of matches. That may not be true for everybody who tries it, but again, if you're logging into Geni and don't find your own profile page, you have to click on yourself up in the upper right corner here, and view your profile, and that's how you get to your profile page.
Oh,
and then you click on DNA, and you can do all that. It'll propagate your Y-DNA up the tree and the maternal, the mitochondrial up that part of the tree, and then it'll look for autosomal matches. So similar to what everybody else is doing. I think it's right now a very lucrative field for the genealogy companies.
It's huge.
Can be very productive also.
Yeah. So I've got a personal question then before,
Sure.
And this will be my last one before we head off to door prizes. What is Geni's relationship to MyHeritage, its parent company? I ask Randy because my company is also now a part of MyHeritage.
MyHeritage.
Yeah. What's your take? What's the relationship?
MyHeritage and Ancestry are sort of the two big players in the genealogy field. Ancestry has a much larger market share in the United States. MyHeritage has a larger market share outside the United States. They are data aggregators, and they gobble up other companies, and that can be a very good thing. For Geni, what it meant was when we became a MyHeritage company is that they added in features. Look, I'm showing everybody, I hope, my Google screen here. And you see these matches over here. So there are 3 boxes. The one on the left is for, if it turns blue, it's a match to another profile on Geni. So there'll be a tree match that you can merge together. But the MyHeritage ones are this orange or yellow one in the middle here, record matches, and these green ones are smart matches to trees over at MyHeritage.
Yeah.
Now, to access those, you have to be a MyHeritage subscriber, which I am. I can show you how that works. So for me, if I click on the records here, these are now records over at MyHeritage, right? So there's this U.S. Public Records Index, which is sort of a crazy, amazing thing.
It is.
Then there are family trees that other people have built with me on them, right? All over here, and I could go and access those trees on MyHeritage.
Okay.
So all these people have copied me over into their tree on MyHeritage, and so that's how that works.
Okay.
Right? So you can research on MyHeritage. I could click this, and it will give me suggestions for trees and documents on MyHeritage that I can look at. So we get to take advantage of that. One neat thing is that MyHeritage also works with Family Search.
Yeah.
And so I also get matches to the Family Search tree. So their billion profiles that they have on Family Search is part of the MyHeritage search engine. And so when I'm working, I will get matches, if not to trees on MyHeritage, but also to the big Family Search tree, and sometimes the records that they've converted into trees. Like at Family Search, they'll take a marriage record that has the husband, the wife, and their parents, and turn that into a little mini tree, and that comes up as a match on my computer also.
Through Geni, is that right?
Sorry, through Geni. So Geni will show me these matches, and then I can access them through MyHeritage.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so
very
you get
good.
All that. And you see this confirm matches. These are records on MyHeritage. My marriage in Cincinnati and my birth in California. Both those states make those records publicly available. They're on MyHeritage, and I can add them then to my profile to confirm that I am who I am.
Well, I'm real interested. So I want to get my profile up there, and I want to upload my DNA. That's what I want to do next, Randy. Then go from there.
Connect, build up your tree, don't forget to add in siblings. Sometimes that helps it find matches, especially for common names. So add in the siblings and the spouses. Build your tree until you get one of those blue matches. It's this type of thing here, and that will give you an opportunity then probably to join the World Family Tree.
Okay.
And once you're hooked in, then you can search George Washington and find out how you're related, that type of thing, and you'll start getting the hang of it.
And then what does it cost? What and where do you go to upgrade to the full Geni?
That's a great question. So again, start out for free. The pro price, I don't actually know off the top of my head right now what the current pricing is, because I have, as a curator, an automatic membership, so I don't have to pay it. Okay. So I haven't done that for a while, but I think there is a website that I probably could find while you're doing the door prizes.
All right.
How about that?
Well, let's do that.
I'll look for. There's.
All right. I'll switch over here to my computer now and remind everyone. This is my screen to remind you that. Did you find it?
It's I think. I don't know. On this page it said $120, but that was 2 years ago, so I don't know. Okay. If that's true, I'll find out.
All right.
Well, you go for it.
Okay. Well, thanks. Hey, you'll be able to watch this again and again and again. So this will be in the free area of our webinar site for the next week. Everyone, if you've got a subscription, then you know that you can access it any time. Moving on to our next. Where's my cursor? Here's my cursors. Now I can click. New in the webinar library. So just yesterday, I've got a couple of viewers here commenting that this was perfect timing to have yesterday's webinar yesterday and today's today, because they do go really nicely together. So yesterday's by Daniel Horowitz on Genealogy for Beginners, Start Your Online Family Tree. That was talking about the MyHeritage trees, and so that did complement this very well. So that's up there in the webinar library. Also, last night's webinar by the Board for Certification of Genealogists is now online. Mark Lowe's Part 2 of Quality Time and Completion, Developing a Research Plan. That was released on Friday. That was a pre-recorded webinar, so it's one that was not live, and it's available if you have an annual or a monthly webinar membership. Nika Smith's webinar of last week, Full Circle, Tracing the Descendants of a Slaveholding Ancestor. Those are all up there. What are we up to? We're up to 600 and almost 50 of them that you can choose from now. And including next week. I'm really looking forward to this by Casey Reed on finding Jamestown ancestors. So I've got some real early folks that were there, so I'm quite interested in that. And then, as you know now, we do host the MyHeritage webinar series. Yesterday was the first of the series, coming up on the 30th. And I'll be hosting this live from MyHeritage headquarters in Tel Aviv. I'm anxious about for that. So understanding DNA matching technologies coming up, and then the following afternoon by Sunny Morton will be a look at the various genealogy quote giants. She'll be comparing Ancestry, Family Search, Find My Past, and MyHeritage. Then we get Eric Basier back with us for a photo restoration roadshow. That's where you send in your photographs to me, and I'll pass them on to Eric. But he's going to pick some of those and then show us live how to clean them up and how to fix them. So that'll be fun. And then Mike Mansfield will be back on Nordic Records, and he says that they are amazing. So join us for that one as well. Now, door prize time. So first door prize. If you're here, then you're eligible to win. And our first one is the Genealogy Do-Over Workbook. This is by Thomas McKenty, and this is the beginning of the year, so a great time to get going with this again if you want to do a makeover on your genealogy. And our first winner today is Elizabeth Cleveland of Norwell, Massachusetts. So thank you, Elizabeth, and congratulations. Let's next go on to our digital download. This is Mark Lowe's webinar from last Friday. If you're a subscriber, then you already have access to this. If not, let me let you raise your virtual hands. So look in your webinar control panel, everyone out there, and if this is something that you'd enjoy winning as a door prize, click on that hand-raising button, and I'll go ahead and click on, let's do this one. Robert Corey, you are our winner today, so just watch for an email from me later on today for your redemption instructions. Okay, Legacy Family Tree software. Let's raise those virtual hands again. Is this something that you'd like? I'm going to take hand number 2. I don't know if I've ever done number 2. I've done 1 and 3 and 5, but we're doing number 2 today. Dory Wentz. Dory, congrats. Thanks for being here. You've got Legacy software coming your way. And now let's do a free month's webinar membership. 646 classes, almost 3,000 pages of supplemental syllabus materials. What else do you get? 5% off of anything up there. There's your pricing. There's our coupon code for today. And coming in your chat log, everybody, is that coupon code. And I'm going to stick in the link for an annual membership if you want to learn about that. Okay, who's our winner for this? Our winner is Betty Lou Burton. Betty Lou, writing down your name. Burton. Okay. And everyone, of course, is a winner because there's... I jumped ahead. I forgot about this. We've got a 1-year pro subscription to Geni.com. Let's see. How are we going to pick the winner for this one here, Randy?
I don't know.
Because I think everyone's going to be raising their hand for this one. Well, I'm going to just shake my scroll bar up and down, and I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to stop right here and pick number 3 on my list. Helen Perry. Congratulations. That was a fun way of doing it. Helen Perry, you've got a 1-year Geni subscription coming your way. All right, there's your 10% off coupon, everyone. Geni, good for quick guides, digital downloads, memberships through this coming Monday. All right, there's the famous slide here. It's our slide that tells me, hey, it's time for whatever time we have left for questions. And Randy, I've got there's hundreds here in the list, and we're not going to get through all of those.
I don't see any of them. I'd love to answer all of them, but I don't see them. Is there a way for me to look at them?
I've got them marked here, and the ones that I've been marking, the ones I usually mark, everyone, are ones that are asked over and over and over, and so these are ones that a lot of people are asking the same ones, so that way I don't load up your screen. First of all, Barbara, she writes in saying she just became a MyHeritage Plus user, and her DNA is being processed there right now. And she says, now I have something else to look at and get started with. She had heard of Geni, but she had no idea it was this great. And she says, yay, with an exclamation mark. So, and Barbara's my friend down in Arizona. So good to see you here today, Barbara. Let's see. Okay, first question here I'm going to ask you. This section is from Jean. She's got a basic account with Geni. She has merged with someone else, and now her tree has some issues with it. And she's wondering, is there any way that she can undo the merge that she did? Do you understand what she's asking?
Yeah, there are ways to undo merges.
Okay.
If it's a mistake, and trying to think what permissions you need, because not everybody can do it. But if you go to on every profile, let's see, not my own. Let me show you.
And by the way, I'm showing my screen now. Yeah. Do you want me to switch it back over to you?
Yeah, might be a good idea.
Okay.
Might be a good idea.
All right. Here you go. So when you're ready, just click that.
There we go. Okay, are we there? Show this window. So here's my tree, right? And if there was a merge that was made, let's see. Let me go to my daughter's profile and see if that'll work. On every, it's loading up. On every profile, there is a tab that says revisions. Here, do you see that?
Yep.
Over on the right, next to the DNA one. So if you click on revisions, you're going to see whatever anybody's done to that profile.
Okay.
So it's sort of a history of the profile. If you've changed the names and merged, and sometimes if you're allowed to do it, it'll say Dora was merged into Dora on such and such a date, and they'll have a button to undo it. If you can't do it, you should ask a curator to do it. Contact me or any of the other Geni curators.
Okay.
You can start a discussion and ask for help, or you can search in projects for Geni curators, and you'll see the page with all the curators, and you can get help untangling messes. It happens all the time because people will, sometimes they'll make a mistake, and when the trees get merged together, then you have to resolve that mistake. The good thing is that you're going to resolve that person's mistake so it isn't out there forever misleading people.
Yeah.
And so we have to untangle these messes all the time. Once you get some practice in it, it's not so difficult. The other thing you can do, if you want to do things manually and you don't have that undo button on the revisions list, is you go see where it says Edit Profile here.
Yeah.
And you click on Edit Profile, and from there, you can also get to this edit screen from the tree itself. So when you edit the profile, if you click on Relationships, see this Relationships here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that will upload the relationships. It takes sometimes a little bit of time for it to appear here. See, it has her parents, that's me, right? And I could remove her as my child. So you can remove a relationship to parents or a spouse. And sometimes when things get tangled up, that's the best way to do it. So you can edit the relationships and remove the relationships. Sometimes it won't let you split the tree and make a sort of a separated branch, so you have to sort of reconnect the person in the right place. There are tricks to doing it, and it just depends on the particular problem that you're having, how to resolve it. But one way is this editing the relationships. The other way is also using moving and merging. Again, these are really sort of more advanced than the introduction to Geni, but one of the things you can do on any profile, I have it set here to click, is when I click more there, it allows me to move. You see that move command?
Yeah.
When you move, it creates a copy that you can then drag and drop somewhere else.
That's neat.
So like, let's say I wanted to make her the wife of my grandfather, I could do that, right? So I can move the profile there. You can initiate merges that way also.
I've not seen that anywhere else. That's cool technology. I like that.
Yeah, so I have the Geni, by the way, works with Flash, so it works best on a computer with a browser that can use Flash. That means it doesn't work as well for the moment on an iPad or an iPhone. Okay. But I think we're days or weeks away from them releasing a much better version that will work on without Flash. And so that's one of the tricks. I have actually some YouTube videos. If you search YouTube Geni Schoenberg, something like that, you'll find some YouTube videos. I may have them linked also on my profile page in the About section that will teach you how to do the moving and merging. There's also this preferences button. You see that down there? Sometimes it won't appear until you move your cursor down there. And you can change how the tree looks.
Oh, neat.
Right? Sometimes you want to see only one level of ancestors, make it more compact. Other times you want to see the tree going all the way up five levels. So you can change the display preferences. There are all these different tree layouts. There are all these different options here. I had someone ask me the other day, she's a single parent who adopted and doesn't want to see the sort of empty node asking for who her husband is all the time. So there's actually a button for that, center single parents, and then she doesn't have to see that.
Neat. I like that.
There's just a lot of flexibility to the program. It's not one size fits all. It's a very, very powerful and flexible program. It's really the best tool for genealogy. That's why I'm such a fan of it. Another thing, names. Some people like to see the surname, the maiden name, all caps, all these different things. You have all these different ways of changing, right? So you could, if I wanted birth surnames in all caps, the rule on Geni is not to use all caps, but now you see I've changed that so it makes it all caps. So you have all these different things that you can do. I like the birth surname in parentheses, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, lots of different options on Geni, and maybe you'll invite me back for an advanced Geni
I'd
webinar
love to.
now that I survived this one.
Yeah, nice job.
Some of those.
So on one of these screens, I saw potentially an answer to Linda's question, who wonders if Geni, or how does Geni handle sources and citations and or also timelines. And I saw both of those tabs on the same screen. Could you show us a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's go back to my. I'll show you a few different things. So
Okay.
I like to. Let's go up my tree a little bit, and I can show you a trick actually, which is really a good way of doing things. So for people who live recently, I have photographs on my tree, but as you get further back, you'll see there are people where I don't have a photograph, and I like to actually include a screenshot of the documents there so that people see there's some documentation behind it. But
nice.
Of course, you can add sources again in so many different ways. And let me go to my profile and I can show you some of these. So besides just adding screenshots of the documents, which I like to do, especially when I'm dealing with families in the 1700s and early 1800s. Sorry, it's taking a little while to load up. You can add sources and documentation in like a dozen different ways. So I really can't explain all of them. I don't use all of them. You just have to find the one that you like.
Yep.
There's this sources tab here, right? So you can add facts and sources here. I like to add things on the timeline. You see this timeline here? So this isn't a good example with sources because I actually maybe I did add something from my wedding there. I could go back. I'm trying to think if I can find a good example that has a lot of these added on here. But sometimes I'll add links. So these are sort of events for me. But let me go back to like Gabriel. No, let's look at this guy here. So this is going back in my tree to Prague.
Okay.
Right, because we don't tend to put as many sources on our own recent profiles as we do for the older people.
I agree.
So this is my second great grandfather. Let's see what his timeline looks like. Right, so I have the birth of my great grandmother there, and you see I have a link, and that's a link to another database that has Czech Jewish birth records.
Okay.
Right, so it goes straight to that page, and so I've added. Once I added the detail of her birth, it also created this event on the timeline, and then if I clicked on that, for example, I can add information about the event. Here are the people who are involved, my great-grandmother and her two parents, right? You could add photos, albums, and all sorts of things. So that's one way of adding sources. There are various others. That's the way that I use most frequently.
Okay.
But there are many other sources. And as I mentioned, also when you get matches to these record matches and things like that on MyHeritage, you can link those also, and they become sources on the profile.
Okay.
So there's a tremendous number of sources that way. You can also, if I go back to myself, you see the relationship thing at the top here is it's sort of easy to navigate to different people. Oh, yeah. There is a good feature which is surprisingly new. They should have had it a long time ago, but you can get a pretty nice descendant or ancestor chart now on Geni. Okay. I went down so I can show off the ancestor one, but if you look at this, see this under actions here, ancestor report, and you can change the number, right? And so that'll show you the level of detail that I put in my tree, because it'll have the births and deaths and things like that, right? These are in the ancestors, right? So people do add a lot of information and sources and things like that. And it's a good way of finding what's missing in your tree. Right, so I can expand now and go 7 generations, right, and see. Okay, so there's some issues there, right? So it's a good way of finding what's missing, right? Who doesn't have all this information in their tree, and the same thing you can do also descendant reports. So that's nice also.
So we're wanting to know what does hunt zombies mean?
That's a good question.
So under the actions button, I think.
Sometimes people forget to to mark people as deceased.
Oh, that's what.
Who really should be deceased,
Okay.
right? So they're like the living dead, and,
Yep.
and someone came up with the term zombies for them.
All right.
So if in your tree you have someone whose parents were born 300 years ago, but they're marked as living,
Yeah.
the hunt zombies will find that person and allow you then to mark them deceased. There's a whole other section of things that you can do here under, let's see, under lists here, for example. There's just a lot of options on this program. It's all online. You just have to explore. So you can list different, so like recently added profiles, and this is probably within my family group. Yeah, so it's there won't be any. Right, so you can. Well, I guess these are some I added recently. I added a fourth cousin in October. I love finding new people, and I did. Right, so I had selected recent people in the family group. You can limit to people who are on Geni, right? The living status. There's a million with DNA, right? So there's a million different ways that you can organize and list your relatives.
Can that list be
on Geni.
exported in any way?
That's a good question. There are some lists that can be exported. I don't know about this one.
Okay.
In particular, I'd have to figure that out. If you go to a project, you can export the lists to an Excel file, but I'm not sure you can on this.
So,
you can save the list.
So, Randy, speaking of projects, Betty Lou is wondering, would a project be something? Could you do it like a one-name study or a one-place study? Is that a project?
Yes. There are already automatic surname projects set up for all surnames. But I'll show you how this works. So here's this big one that I do for Prague, where we've identified 300 different surnames for Jews in Prague.
Okay.
Right? It was for Jews a relatively large population, but everybody's related to everybody else because they all lived there for hundreds of years, and so I've set up this project where I have sort of if it ever loads up, you'll see it.
Okay.
There it is. An explanation of the project, what the sources are. These are all sort of links to various sources that we found, and then here's a list of individuals from each family with representing each family name. So you could click on that and be dumped into that area. But you see these surnames here, right? So here's the top surnames. So you were asking, like, if I clicked on Winternitz, it'll come to a sort of automatic project where everybody's named Winternitz. Okay. Yeah. So that's one example, right? And you'll see there are 1,500 people named Winternitz who are automatically added to this project. Wow. They have related projects, etc. And you could click on that, and then you could see all the people with that surname. And these type of lists, I think you can export at some way, but not seeing that right now. Maybe it's on other ones. So again, you had projects for towns. This is the project page. You go to Research, Projects, and if you want to start a new project, you just click this button here, Start. You fill in the name of the project, New Project, okay, and you say, this is my new project, and then create, and now I just created a new project, and I could share it on Twitter and Facebook, which I'm not going to do. But so I just set up an empty project just now. That's how fast it is. And then you go about the work. The real work is finding people who are interested in the project and telling them about it and getting them to join. Yeah. Well, it's a little stalled at the moment. There it is. Okay, so here's my new project, right? Okay. And if I wanted, I could edit the information in the project, right, and go back and edit the name and edit, right, all those type of things. So yes, you can. I think projects and town projects are the best unused tool in genealogy, and that's why I've set up hundreds and hundreds of projects for various towns that I'm interested in to help get people working together on what records are available, to introduce new people, to hook up all the different families, because everybody is connected to everybody
Hey,
else.
Randy, I totally
towns.
agree. That's something
Yeah.
that, like a locality-based project for every town and jurisdiction in the world. I'd love to have that.
I've been pushing Geni to create one automatically for locations. They
Yeah?
haven't done it yet, so we set up sort of, because I'm interested in Jewish genealogy, sort of Jews of such and such town, and I've set up hundreds of these. I'm going to delete this new empty project, so it's not sitting out there.
I'll let you do that.
Next question. Yeah, there's also this inbox messages, this little box up here where you get messages, requests, matches, and discussions and things like that. That's a good place to go to get information. You see I have 3 messages waiting for me.
Well, and it had 999 plus on DNA matches. That's I want to get mine up there.
I told you, Jews. You have to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish to get that. It's crazy. We all look the same. Most of the matches are. They show up looking like third cousins or second cousins, but they're really probably 10th cousins or 15th cousins. But it's called endogamy.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's related to everybody else and has the same genes.
Well, I've got looking at my ethnicity results at my heritage. I've got some. It's in my grandparents' level, but they've got Ashkenazi Jewish in their ethnicity. Yeah.
Okay. So then you may come up.
Huh.
You'll be related to everybody else then. Next question. Any other questions?
So much we've still got maybe like 300 of them here, but at this point, what people are writing in, they're saying, "Hey, great job, loved it, can't wait for that next advanced webinar." Let's do that sometime. Now I know. Sure. Let me switch this back over to me real quick and show my screen, and I'm going to drag my browser over and look at our webinar site because. We do have you scheduled for an entire webinar just dedicated to privacy issues with online family trees. So that's not till later on in the year. Of course, we'll anxiously await that. But in the meantime, it might be fun to talk about how we can learn more about Geni between now and then. And Randy, I'll have to say you're welcome here anytime. You've done very well. You really said this was your first webinar.
Yes.
Well, okay, nice job. I mean, it was it was great. You did fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to conclude the webinar now at this time. I don't know how much longer I can go. I didn't eat lunch ahead of time, and I'm really hungry, and so I'm going to go do that.
I am too. People can find me on Geni and send me messages that way if they still have questions. I'm here, and the other curators are all here to help.
Okay.
It's just very easy to get help on Geni. From people who want to give you help. So I really recommend it for people who are just starting out. There is a learning curve. Don't get frustrated.
Yeah.
It works differently than what you may be used to, and those differences make it better, but it takes a while to get used to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Randy, and let me say thanks to all the rest of you, wherever and whenever you are around the world. Thanks for sharing part of your day, and remember, life is short. Do genealogy first. Okay, bye. Bye, Randy. Thanks again.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah, you bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, okay. I am done.